Welcome back to the Touch MBA podcast. I'm your host, Darren. And what we do on the show is bring on admissions directors and successful students and alumni from the world's top business schools to find out what makes each of these programs unique and what you can do to give yourself the best chance to get in. This week, I brought on James Kent from CEIBS, which is ranked number 5 in the world by Financial Times. It's the top ranked program in China. And watching the program evolve over the years has been a lot of fun. James and I get into the weeds, get into the details about what makes this program unique and their admissions process and what you can do to really stand out. One word that James repeated a lot was proactive. They're looking for proactive applicants. And I think this word sums up a lot about the spirit of CEIBS and what they're looking for from applicants. And if you're willing to be that proactive applicant and that proactive student, I think CEIBS can offer a lot of value. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. Remember that at touchmba.com, you can get free school selection help. Just share your profile with us over there, and we'd be glad to give you some free pointers. We also have a lot of free guides and great information there to help you on your MBA journey. So go head over to touchmba.com to learn more. And now let's get to my conversation with James Kent from CEIBS. I've known our next guest for many years now. It's hard to believe, but he is the marketing manager for the MBA Admissions and Marketing Team at the China Europe International Business School, otherwise known as CEIBS, CEIBS. And it's the top ranked MBA in China. And, I was fortunate to meet him about 5 years ago. James Kent, welcome to the Touch MBA podcast.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you for that warm welcome. And it's nice to hear your voice again.
Yeah. So, James, the first question, as you know, that I like to ask is what makes the CEIBS MBA unique from all the other top-ranked business schools in the world?
Sure. It's a great question to kick off. I would answer that, Darren, by saying that, first and foremost, we were born differently. So we're quite a young school. We celebrated our 25th anniversary last year, so 26 this year. But really, we're not a Chinese university, as a lot of people think we are. We're actually one of the longest standing joint ventures between the Chinese government and the European Union to create this business school. And it really does. I mean, we have a motto of China depth, global breadth, and it's more than a motto. It really does inform every level of strategic decision that the school makes to make sure that the students are either getting a deeper experience in China or a broader skill set that can help them become global business professionals.
Yeah. And it's been amazing to see the program grow. And I mean, I know even back then, 5 years ago, CEIBS was a top ranked program. But can I just say, James, that whether it's you or your team, you guys have done a really great job with the website. I can feel like the vitality of the program, through the site. And I love how transparent you are with so many parts of what the program offers. But having been with the program now for a while, have you noticed any changes both in terms of the curriculum, the program itself, but also the types of students you're attracting to the school?
Sure, and I'll pass on your thanks to my marketing colleagues in terms of the website, because we do put a lot of work there. But yeah, it's a really interesting window to be with CEIBS these last 5 years and seeing how the program has changed. Some things are surface level, some things are deeper. We are still kind of adapting and changing the program. And to be honest, Darren, we really have to be. And the real driver of this is because the Chinese economy is changing so much. So even in the last 5 years since I've been here, we now have parity between core and elective credits. Before it was quite heavily weighted in the core modules. So now more elective credits that students can really focus on areas that they'd like to strengthen in their profile. But part of that is that we've created a brand new concentration in digital business. And again, this is really, a reflection of where the Chinese economy is now, because everybody leads such digitally connected lives. So to really kind of, compete and to stand out on the job stage, we offer students electives, everything from big data, artificial intelligence, platform strategy, and they're proving now, very, very popular electives, and it's proving to be a very popular concentration. So that's a couple of examples. The other one that I would say is we're a school in China, and academically, Chinese students are, traditionally and now, very strong, right, in the classroom. But I think one of the smart moves from the school is to really strengthen the experiential pillar of the program. And we still have a very rigorous academic structure here at CEIBS. But, to be honest, the leadership really thought that we would really be, wasting this golden opportunity if we kept all of our students kind of on campuses as much as possible, because there's really so much happening outside the walls of campus in Shanghai and in China that are really responsible for seeing, China's growth. We go to places like Shenzhen, and we go and find out how this fishing village, is now turned into this innovation and entrepreneurship hub of China, the kind of Silicon Valley of China. But we also do some fun stuff. We have a leadership elective, and instead of just having it kind of, outside of the, in our campus, in our quad, we actually go to the Gobi Desert. And exactly what happens there, I'm not quite sure, which is a bit frustrating from my marketing perspective. They want to keep it a secret. But yeah, I think that really the school in the last 5 years has done a great job to really kind of give students this chance to obviously still have a really rigorous academic experience, but to make sure that that's, intertwined with being part of the changing Chinese economy.
And academically, where do you think CEIBS really stands out, like reputationally?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and one that I thought of when we had a kind of initial discussion for quite some time. I'd say that we're still a generalist MBA program. So obviously we have to be strong on, on marketing, on leadership, on economics. But I think if I was to put a pin on where I would say we stand out, it's that academically, we strive for this balance that is in line with our motto, right? China depth, global breadth. And what I mean by that is that academically, we still have the case studies you'd have if you go to Harvard or INSEAD or any of the other top tier schools in the world to teach you these kind of globally competitive business concepts and fundamentals. But we supplement that with something that's very close to the school's heart, which is our case studies designed and developed by our internal case development center here at CEIBS. And again, this case development center was really born because the Chinese economy is just moving so quickly. And, an example would be a strategy professor maybe 3-4 years ago. He wrote a case on Mobike versus OFO, which of these Chinese bike sharing giants were going to win the war and become kind of the main player. But, that argument's already settled and is already dead, right? Those companies don't exist anymore. But, we had a case then, the professors and the case writers, they really have to produce high quality cases that really help students to kind of have get a finger on the pulse of the Chinese economy, up to date and real time. So, I would say that balance in delivery between letting students kind of really grapple with today's China and the business challenges in today's China, but still having, that skill set that if you leave China in the future, the tools that you take away aren't going to, limit you to succeed in China, right? It's still very global. So in a roundabout way, if I can answer your question and kind of, put it in that stance, I would say that balance is something that the school takes very seriously and is also unrivaled. That's something we can only achieve because we have, as I say, one president that represents Europe, one president that represents China, one dean that represents China, one dean that represents Europe. And these, four very big players in the school, this is fundamental to their mission.
And to take a step further there, with regards to your faculty, I know that CEIBS strives to have a balanced mix of faculty, in terms of background and where they're coming from. Can you tell us a bit more about your faculty and how that's designed as well?
Sure, that's a nice question. So we have around 70 full-time faculty at CEIBS, and most of these faculty, live and work in China, and they're here for similar reasons that I am. They also want to, be part of this fascinating story that's developing in China. So they consult for local companies here or multinationals that are here and do research. They write cases, etc., etc. In terms of the profile, now we have a fairly even kind of split between where faculty are from. So about a third are from China, a third are from the US, and a third are from Europe and the rest of the world. And this is quite mixed within the different departments. So in the strategy department, for example, we'll have American professors, European professors, and Chinese professors. But I think the unique thing with it's not position that you're only learning about China from the Chinese faculty and international from the international faculty. We're very, I think, strict in terms of who we're recruiting to teach here, and they need to. Just like staff and just like students, they need to have a passion and enthusiasm and a intellectual curiosity for what is developing in this part of the world.
Yes. And for an applicant who is interested, to maybe study in China but hasn't been there before, how important is the Chinese language, both to get into the program and to find a job after?
Sure, it's usually kind of the elephant in the room question, particularly for internationals. There's no way of saying it any otherwise. If you want to have a midterm or long term career in China, then learning Chinese and striving to master the language is important. It very much depends on what you want to do. We have some of our graduates that are working in China that speak, okay Chinese, conversational Chinese, but really what they're doing and the value they bring to the business, it doesn't require them to speak fluent Chinese, right? So they're maybe kind of more focused on outbound or kind of more focused on APAC. But even these companies, they still have a preference for people that speak at least some Mandarin, because really they want to know that you can kind of, live, work, and function and be happy in a predominantly Mandarin speaking society, right? So it tends to be, also used as a bit of a proxy by HR to see how integrated somebody is in society. But it's, there's no way of sugarcoating it down. It is difficult. It is a challenge. But in admissions, it's quite a nice natural filter because, obviously we want students that are up for the challenge. And, if they're kind of put off by that, then maybe there are others, honestly, other schools that might be out there. I mean, our students, they come in, if they don't speak Chinese, they do a month-long Mandarin pre-course, and then they have classes once a week, and then that moves to kind of one-on-one tutoring. So we help them along, but it's definitely something that, nobody can hold your hand to the point that you're then fluent in Chinese. It has to have a lot of work and effort from your side. So yeah, I would say that's kind of where we are now with the language side of things. Maybe just as well, one more point is that there's also some positions that it really requires native level Mandarin to compete in the market. And again, there's no way of getting around this. So, definitely in terms of iBanking or consulting, to operate in a Mandarin speaking society, you'll need to speak the language fluently. So, one question I always pose to people when I'm speaking to them in the admissions process is, okay, so if you're a recruiter and you can choose, out of two candidates at the final interview stage, for this one job, it could be anything, right? Strategy position, it doesn't matter. And one speaks fluent English and Mandarin, and the other speaks conversational Mandarin and fluent English. Who would you go for? And I think the way students, answer that, I've had some fantastic answers, but it really helps people to kind of think about what is their value that they could bring to the company ahead of maybe somebody that has Mandarin mother tongue. And this is going to be different for every example, right? But it's certainly something, if you're concerned about the language side, to really kind of sit down and think about, or talk to us in admissions, and we can help you along the way.
No, I love that answer. Thank you for sharing that. And I noticed that CEIBS also now offers a 12-month option. And I'm just wondering how many people, how much of the cohort, if you could tell us a bit more about your cohort and how many opt for that accelerated version versus, doing exchanges or versus staying for the 18 months?
Sure. Yeah. So typically we have around 180 students each year split into 3 sections. I would say 95% of students still go for the 18-month journey. One, it's the same price, but that
makes sense.
The other honest answer is that the 12-month was really designed and developed for people that are looking to, do the MBA and then rejoin their sponsored company or family business. So each year we'll have students, say from McKinsey or Bayer, that will come in, and then their companies, naturally they want them back quite quickly, right? So they'll do the 12-month. But if you're looking to make a substantial change to your career, then the 18-month also includes the support of our career development center. And also it includes this opportunity to go on exchange to one of 40 partner schools around the world. And this exchange is with, in North America, schools like NYU Stern, Wharton, Kellogg, Chicago Booth, or Europe, the likes of London Business School, INSEAD, HEC Paris, ESA, in Asia, top schools in Korea, Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong. So it's a nice lot of choices. In terms of kind of the dynamics of the class, we still have around 2/3 of the students that are from mainland China, and then 1/3 that are from overseas. And we're honestly asked a lot of the time, can we see a day in the future that we would see more parity between internationals and Chinese? But for me, I think that it's more by design, at least conversations that I've had with the dean, it's more by design that we go for that 2/3, 1/3. And he said something to me once I thought was, that was really interesting, that obviously people come to business school not just to learn from their faculty, but also their peers. And I think particularly for internationals coming into China, you're going to be in a classroom that definitely learn from top tier faculty, but you'll probably learn more about China if you've got somebody sat on your right that works for a state-owned oil company in China, and say somebody on your left that's works for one of the BAT, the tech giants here. So I think there's a lot of value in that. But yeah, typically that's kind of the makeup of our course. About 5.5, 6 years work experience. We have about 40% of the cohort are female representation. So about average 29, 30 years old. Yeah, that's a little bit about the CEIBS profile.
Yeah. And Shanghai, you've lived there now 5 years. Why do you think this is an interesting place, or a place that should be considered for, elite MBA applicants to get their MBA?
Yeah, I was speaking to, I'll answer this in 2 ways. So, first of all, my personal tale is that having lived in other cities in China, I think Shanghai offers the best, again, balance of, having a Chinese and an international experience. So, there are some weekends that I get up and I'm like, right, I'm going to have such a China day. I'm going to do Tai Chi in the park, or, I'm going to go and have noodles somewhere. And then there are other days that I wake up and I'm an English guy living in Shanghai. I want to sit in a pub and watch the football. And I think Shanghai is great because you can naturally find this balance, and it doesn't feel like hard work, and you can really kind of tailor it to what you're looking for. The other thing that I'd say about Shanghai, or in China in general, is obviously it's very much growing as as an economy, and number 2 in the world, but also it's something that you can still see its roots in the development journey, from a developing to a developed economy, if you understand me. So kind of this this insight into I guess kind of a success story as an emerging market is something that's really unique. I think it's an opportunity to come here now, and this isn't going to last forever, right? With China and Shanghai it's changing every year. But I think particularly for applicants that are coming from other Southeast Asian economies, we get a lot of students coming in because they really want to dig under the skin and kind of really see what has been behind this success story, and what lessons can be kind of taken back to their countries as well. So yeah, I'd say it's quite a unique time to be here, and I won't be going back to London anytime soon, I don't think. And
I do want to quickly plug your boot camp, because I do think it's a really interesting chance for people who have never been to China and Shanghai to experience, life for a week. Are you still running those boot camps?
We are, and that's very much been kind of my baby since we met at the boot camp all those years ago.
Yes.
And a lot of I have to say a lot of heart goes into that project, and I also believe in it for the same reasons that you said. It's for anybody that's thinking of doing an MBA. You can come to us for 1 week, and you basically live as an MBA student with other potential MBA students. So really, it gives you a chance to evaluate kind of, the academic side. You join 5 or 6 different courses with us. We take you out to visit alumni and, companies that alumni work for in Shanghai. You get to meet with current students, admissions. So you really get kind of a condensed 1 week holiday-ish that you're still learning about China business. And for me, it's good because it answers 3 questions. Number 1, is a full-time MBA right for me? And number 2, is China and Shanghai the right location to study my program? And then number 3, is CEIBS the right school that's going to help me get to where I want to go? And to be honest, we probably have about a 25% conversion rate from the boot camp to people that apply, which is great. But what's really nice to see is that the people that do the program then go on to other schools, and you're really with a group of people that are also evaluating kind of, okay, which option is best for me? And it's one of those things, until you've kind of experienced it and lived it, it's hard to maybe articulate some of your priorities. So I think that's, it's a really interesting program. Last year, we actually doubled in capacity. So we had 2 sections and total of 90 students coming in.
Wow.
Which was, I've got a few more gray hairs from that, but it was nice. And we finished off with a cruise down the Huangpu River and, a few beverages. So it was a great experience. Obviously with COVID this year, we've delayed it now. So actually next year in 2021, we'll have our very first spring break boot camp. And I'm more than happy to share details of that with your listeners, Darren.
Yeah, so I'll be sure to link to that page so listeners can learn more. But I went myself and I highly recommend it. I think it's a really neat opportunity. In fact, one person I met who was an applicant at the time, Matthias, I don't know if you remember him.
Yes,
so he ended up going to London Business School, but he guest hosted one of our episodes, and we're still in touch. So it's almost like you can make a little MBA network, even outside where you go for the MBA. So highly recommend that. Do check that out. James, if we could talk about admissions,
sure,
to your program. I guess, first question is fit qualities, right? Like, what type of applicants are you looking for here? What are the important values you're looking for?
Sure. So I'm going to answer it kind of just focus on, I guess kind of international students that maybe don't speak fluent Chinese, because it is obviously a very different answer if Chinese that are maybe, overseas and they're looking to go back to China, or people that are in mainland China. I'd answer it slightly differently. But, looking at, from my understanding of, your audience demographic, if we just focus on internationals, I guess I'd say we have the same usual suspects as any other top tier business school. We want smart people that are articulate, that are very intellectually curious, that are proactive, that are comfortable sharing their experience and eager to learn. We also maybe one thing that I would say is very important. It's that Shanghai and China and CEIBS is really a platform that rewards, people that are very proactive. And you get a lot of resources just by, coming to CEIBS and showing up for class, but you're really, I'd say, not getting your money's worth. And there is a kind of a business school bubble, I guess. And, really the students that go on to get fantastic opportunities and, really develop their careers here are the ones that really kind of break out of that and are very proactive in terms of developing and building their network in Shanghai. It's still, Guangxi is very much still important for society, and obviously a CEIBS, badge, MBA badge is something that's very important and impressive, but it's still, I'd say people have to kind of take proactive efforts to get there. So in terms of fit qualities, we really look to see kind of examples of this in people's previous work experience and academic experience. When they've done more than just show up, if you know what I mean, when they've kind of really taken a challenge by the scruff of the neck, and like, this is what I'm determined to do. These are all the trees that I'm going to shake down to get there. And this is important. We do really look for this. So, that saying, fortune favors the brave. I mean, fortune favors the brave, or proactive in CEIBS. I think that's something that's definitely in my mind every time I walk into the interview room.
I love that. And I mean, how can applicants show this? I mean, it doesn't necessarily just have to be confined to work and academics, right? I mean, oftentimes I'm guessing it's outside of those two things.
Yeah, definitely. And, we're all, obviously, I think everybody here and listening are adults, right? We all have demands in terms of going to work and friends or partners or family. But if you're determined enough, you can still carve out time to make achievements. So even people that have set themselves the goals of doing a half marathon, or I met one candidate that wanted to do, I think it was 5 to 10 skydives next year, and he was afraid of heights, and he kind of talked about this proactive way that he was approaching it and what he was doing to work towards it. So, and I think then the other good thing about that is you can see the kind of the energy in the room changes, because then people are kind of talking about something more that they're genuinely enthusiastic about and passionate about. And yeah, it could be, as I say, I don't want to kind of give away too many answers, but it could be anything, that somebody's, that's happening in their lives. If it's cooking, or it could be anything really. But when we get on these topics, then it does tend to really kick into life, I'd say.
Do you guys have a minimum GMAT, or sort of a bottom level expectation in terms of percentage performance on the quant section or verbal?
Yeah, so good question. So our average GMAT is around 680. I'd say about 80% of our students get between 640 and 720. For people that are, moving kind of outside of those, or the lower end of that boundary, like a lot of schools, I'd say, GMAT isn't the most important thing for us. It's, it's part of the criteria. And I think particularly for, internationals coming to China, right? I think that they can really make up for maybe a weaker GMAT score if they've got this kind of tangible link to China, or this strong rationale about why this school makes sense for them, and what resources help work for them, and also what they can bring to the class. Because even for us, we're looking for ambassadors when people graduate. We have fantastic alumni chapters in Europe, across Asia and North America and Africa. But, we still want, more people to kind of champion CEIBS when they graduate as part of these networks. So I think, a lower score can be overcome, but probably you'll just be challenged a bit at the interview in terms of providing evidence that you'll be able to keep up with the more kind of quants heavy aspects of the course.
Yeah. And James, having been with the program now for a while, like, which part of the application are you particularly excited to see? Like, I'm trying to get at, where applicants have a bit more leverage in the process, whether it's like the essays or the interview or recommendations. I just love to hear your thoughts there. Yeah,
that's a great question. It's really nice to kind of share my thoughts on this, because I think we work very hard at CEIBS, and are all very proud of the achievement of being ranked number 5 in the world by the Financial Times for 2 years in a row. And it's something that the school, as I say, is very proud of. However, I think that there are some candidates that will ask the question, why do you want to come to CEIBS? And that will be sometimes it might be the only thing they say, or the first thing that they say, and that's fine, because you want to come to a top school. But really, we use this, I guess, as an example of your level of due diligence and research. And in the same way as if you were graduating and you're preparing for an interview at a company, you wouldn't just say to a recruiter or somebody in HR that you want to work for this company because it's the best in the world. We want to hear more than that. So because our recruiters want to hear more than that, we kind of use this interview as a way to really shine the light on how would this person approach their company research if they're preparing for a job. And if it is just reading kind of the number 5 in the world tag, we're kind of expecting for people to dig a little bit deeper than that. And as you said quite rightly, Darren, now we have a fantastic, vibrant website with lots of material for people to have a look at. He says tongue in cheek, but you can really find a lot out there. Being proactive, speaking to current students through our ambassador scheme, or talking to alumni, linking up through LinkedIn. So even if that's part of your answer, the number 5 tag, I would say, really impress us and dig deeper than that to stand out in the interview.
Yes. And could you tell me a bit more about your interview? Who conducts them? How long are they? What's the format?
Sure. So we tend to do around 40-minute interviews, and it will be the applicant and then interviewed by typically one professor at CEIBS and then one non-academic staff member. So this will be somebody senior that either works in admissions or the program delivery team or our career development center. And I think essentially we approach it from slightly different angles. The professor, by and large, wants to know, what is this person going to be like in the classroom, right? Is he going to be talking a lot, sharing a lot of opinions? What's he or she going to be like if I push back on that idea? And then the non-academic staff, I think, are more concerned with, what are your output goals? So what are you looking to do after you graduate? And, how can CEIBS, help you get there? So again, if you can demonstrate that if you want a career in tech, you've identified these electives from our digital concentration and this person from our mentoring scheme and, this China module in Shenzhen, et cetera, I think it adds a lot more weight to the interview performance.
Yes. And I mean, are there certain sort of questions when you say professor pushing back on your answers that I'm sure that raised a few eyebrows? Like, are applicants expected to, for example, talk about their industry that they're from, or are they given? Yeah, I'm wondering if there's any special format to the questions.
Sure. So, I guess we formulate a lot of the questions in the interview based on the applicant's essays. So in the essays, they're given ample opportunity to kind of talk about future business trends, talk about their achievements, talk about their take on entrepreneurship, and also kind of, what are they looking to get out of the program. So whether the professor agrees or disagrees, he might still push back to, as I say, kind of see how the applicant responds. And, I guess just to kind of stimulate more of a engaging conversation about it, and, to see the student kind of, or the applicant backing up his or her ideas, and just to kind of dig a little bit deeper, I guess, than what's in the essay. So anybody applying, I think one application question is about, future business trends. If it has been something that you've, not thought so deeply about and kind of put it together in a hurry, sometimes these things do unravel in the interview, which is fine, and it happens. But yeah, it's just something to maybe make sure that before you go into that interview, make sure that you've read and reread your essay questions, because it is something that, we will have in front of us and formulate a lot of the questions about.
Yeah. And in addition to kind of going beyond ranking as a reason to apply to the school, do you have any other tips that you just wish more applicants knew about to strengthen and bolster their cases to get into CEIBS?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, maybe as I said before, I think that if you're in terms of reaching out to people, not that you should name drop everybody related to CEIBS that you've connected with, But we have a very open communication channel with our student ambassadors. In admissions, my colleagues and I, if we have a one-on-one chat and you tell me that you want to do XYZ, then I will find an alumni in XYZ and somebody that you can reach out to and speak to about your goals and plans in the future. But obviously, if people don't reach out and tell us this, then we can't guide them in the right direction. I think, something that maybe ties a lot of our alumni together, regardless of where they are in the world, again, it comes back to this motto of China depth, global breadth. And people really resonate with that genuinely, then I think there's a lot, even just by the website or blogs that you can dig in to really understand, okay, this is what CEIBS stands for, what does this actually mean and how can this help me?
Yes. And one last admissions question about career goals. I'm wondering how specific your team expects those to be from applicants.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, things do change, of course, on the program, and I think like anywhere, you come somewhere, you give up your job, and you spend 18 months on campus. You zoom out from your career, and of course, priorities are going to change. And, I've never gone up to somebody on the day of graduation and said, I interviewed you, you told me you wanted to be a strategy consultant, and now you're in healthcare. Yeah. What are you doing? Give me back that diploma. It's really, I would, I guess, kind of encourage people to go in there with a plan A, because, from that, as interviewers, we can really work out, okay, what resources do we have to help this person move in this direction? But, still, I guess that, the counterpart and why it's quite delicate is that you still need to demonstrate that you're flexible. And if your dream job of being a consultant doesn't work out, does that then mean it's going to be an unsuccessful MBA for you? I guess we look to see what people's backup plans are. I think particularly on the language side, right? If, and we've had people that have kind of graduated, gone to work in other markets and then been sent back to China. So, the China experience always does come in useful in the future, even if it isn't right away. But yeah, I guess we've kind of always got that plan A, plan B metric in our minds.
Yeah. And I want to come back to that in terms of what percentage of your international students end up working in China and leaving China, but we'll get to that in the career section. But I just want to say an aside and say you've inspired a new Touch MBA episode for me.
Okay.
Based on your answer. Yeah, I just think that this whole idea of making the case for why this business school should help you, I want to do a whole episode on that. It seems very obvious, but maybe it is actually counterintuitive because a lot of applicants are thinking, oh, the business school is there to serve me, right? But I think if you can make that case, like you can take all the data points that you've made available on CEIBS, whether that's student ambassadors to talk to or like information on your eLab if you're an entrepreneur or whatever that is, and you put that together into this case for contribution, that makes the admissions person's job so easy. It allows someone like you to guide people, the right way. So, but I do think there's a responsibility there on the school side as well to make it easy for students to make the case. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we don't want, we don't want people to be spending kind of, hopefully our website is easy to navigate, but, we don't want to spend, people kind of spend ages to try and dig through page after page to find what they're looking for, which, as we said before, it's, it's valuable then to kind of speak to the admissions consultant. And if you ask me, where can I find this on the website? Then of course, then, I'm happy to help. And, as long as you can kind of put my name on the title of the, the special case episodes, Darren, the James Kent edition, then, I give you full authority to run with that.
All right, we might need to negotiate about that, but great. And then in terms of scholarships at CEIBS, James, could you tell me a bit more about what percentage of your class is awarded scholarships, what the amounts are, and just in general, how the school views awarding scholarships, the philosophy behind them, and obviously the obvious question. Wow, I'm sneaky. I'm asking like 10 questions in one question. How applicants can improve their chances.
Great. So essentially, we cover about 1/3 of our class with scholarships. And scholarships that we give out tend to go up to 40% of tuition. I think by last year's MBA, the total tuition fee was just under 64,000 US dollars. The scholarships that we have, you're automatically considered for them. So we have a range of kind of two buckets of scholarships. So one are the merit-based scholarships that are really rewarding your academic achievements, GPA, GMAT score, et cetera, et cetera. The other bucket is more, we call them diversity-based fellowships. So this is to help us to build the class as diverse as possible, but in terms of gender, in terms of geographic location, in terms of industry, in terms of function, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, students or applicants, I should say, are automatically considered for these. So when you apply, there's nothing, additionally you need to do. But at that interview, that 40 minutes, after the interview, then the two interviewers will turn to each other and say, would we recommend such and such for a scholarship? And based on that conversation, we then submit everything to the scholarship committee, and then the scholarship committee will then, work out who are we going to make an offer to. So I think it's quite nice because basically for some people that are, applying, they will then find out on the decision day if they've got an admit, and then if they've got a scholarship as well, or a fellowship to go along with that. In terms of our philosophy, I would say that we tend to use scholarships to build and to shape the class in the way that we want, right? And it is very competitive for all business schools now. And I've been in the interview room myself. You walk out of some and you're like, wow, it's if I didn't feel the excitement from doing this, then I wouldn't be doing the job that I'm doing anymore, because it really is one of the good parts of the job to really kind of feel like I'm really looking forward to this person's contribution in the classroom. And so I guess we use the scholarships to build this class. We're quite lucky in that we don't have to work, very hard at all to actually get, a high percentage of female students at CEIBS. So again, I guess that's, how we use scholarships, in terms of increasing their chances at picking up these scholarships. Again, coming back to the website, you don't have to do too much digging to find out the names of the scholarships, particularly on the diversity side. And so, it wouldn't harm anybody in the interview to kind of, it goes without saying that if you're looking for the entrepreneurship scholarship, focus on these achievements. I think we also have a diversity fellowship, focusing on different regions, and then to kind of focus on your achievement in those regions and what you could bring to the class that really represents Latin America or Africa, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So I guess that's how we see scholarships at CEIBS.
So are those sometimes even discussed in the interviews? Because like the applicants will check the box, right? Like, I want to apply for this scholarship, and then that's discussed, or not really? That's just kind of a subtext to make that case.
Exactly, it's more subtext because there's actually no boxes to tick. Everybody's that's fine. Yeah. Everybody's kind of automatically considered, and then I see. Yeah, as I say, we on our interview forms we have a box to check if we recommend this individual for a scholarship. But all of the interviewers, and we have training on this before starting the interview season each year. We have in our mind the various scholarships that we have on offer, and then. As I say, we do our part, and then the next part goes to the scholarship committee afterwards, after all the interviews have been done. I'm not allowed into that room, so exactly what goes on, I can't share too many details, I'm afraid.
Yeah. And just kind of a quick aside, with everything that's going on with COVID-19, what's going on with this year or this fall's class?
Yeah.
Are they? Yeah.
Yeah. This is a really interesting question. So when just kind of stepping back in time a little bit, when COVID first hit and, people thought it might be similar to SARS and, kind of a bit more concentrated in China, we very quickly made the decision to do two things. One, push back the start date of the program from August to October this year, and also to add in a round 4, another round in the summer. This was when naively back then everybody, hoped that it would burn out when the summer months came. When it was, unlikely that was happening, and with countries closing their borders left, right, and center, the leadership really came into discussion with the MBA office and really deeply thought about what we could do. And I think by that point, there were current students that were doing a lot of classes on Zoom, and, like faculty and students all over the world doing their MBAs at the moment, they had to be extremely agile to adapt to this change. But our worry was for people that are coming into the program, if the very first experience is this kind of online experience, then we're not really doing the full-time MBA justice, I would say. I think a lot of the transformation takes place, when you're learning from a faculty face-to-face or, mixing with peers side to side. So fortunately, we're a school that we have a campus in Europe, in Switzerland. So what we've done for the students that are already in China, they can start here in October, no problem. And for those that are outside of China and can't travel in because of the travel ban, we gave them the option to go to our Zurich campus for the first 2 terms, so up until December. And then with the easing restrictions, of China, we're hopeful that in January, then the students can then fly in and join their counterparts in Shanghai. So it's quite innovative. For the first time, we're kind of truly China-Europe, because we have kind of, I think one section in Europe and then 2 sections in Shanghai. But again, we give people the choice, because we know if people are signing up for CEIBS, they're coming to kind of have this China experience. So we had communication sessions, we had kind of one-on-one chats, we had the dean kind of talk about, this initiative. And where students are now, or applicants are applying for their visas, confirmed students are applying for their visas, and we're making it happen. So it's really nice. I won't relax until October 12th comes and, we start with the class there, but it's nice to be part of this part of CEIBS history, to really kind of commit to this focus of the school to really honor this face-to-face experience. It would have been, very easy to kind of push back the start date again, or to do everything online. And, believe me, the school's very much putting their hand in their pocket to achieve this. And I'm looking forward to seeing people's feedback from it.
Wow. I didn't even know that CEIBS had a campus in Switzerland, or, offered instruction there.
Yeah, so this actually came in the year I joined, and it's beautiful. It's very different to the kind of the mothership that we have here in Shanghai. It's right on the shores of Lake Zurich. They have a really nice kind of cocktail deck. Not that that's the immediate impressive thing.
Come on, James.
Yeah, maybe the editor can move around the order of this. But it's a stunning setting, and I think that as I say, it comes back to the history of the school. We also have a campus in Accra in Ghana, but really we have this campus in Europe because, we are committed to strengthening both sides, both the China side and the Europe side, obviously also the international side of things.
Yeah. And so just one last question on that. The cohort, say the one cohort that would start in Zurich, their classes would be self-contained, right? Or would there still be kind of like this mix between the Zurich and Shanghai?
Yeah, exactly. Students. So because of that, and because we still wanted this mix, we'll have the situation that some of our faculty will fly to Zurich, others that will teach, in Shanghai. So the students in Zurich, some of their classes will be kind of online, with their peers in Shanghai, given the time difference. But then others will be kind of, I'd say, face-to-face with faculty that will be there on the ground in Europe. Yeah. But we're still doing the Mandarin courses. We still have other activities to meet some of the European alumni chapters as well. So, I'm excited to get there. We're nearly a month out now, at the time of recording anyway. So we'll see.
Yes. Okay, fingers crossed. Yeah, it's crazy situations. In terms of careers at CEIBS, maybe because, most of our listeners are international, non-Chinese listeners. What percentage of your international students end up staying in China or going elsewhere?
Yeah, so it does fluctuate a little bit each year. The career placement report for this year is due out, I think, in a couple of weeks or so. So I don't have data for 2020. For 2019, I believe it was about 56% of international students stayed and worked in China. Then I think maybe about 25% went to Asia, and then the remainder went to either North America or Europe. In terms of, I guess my take from being here for 5 years is that, usually at the interview stage, people are dead set to get that experience in China, maybe 2 years work experience here, or 4 or 5 years, whatever, and then move on and, take this experience with them. I think that really one of the changes that happens throughout the course is that people's priorities do change. And I know, for example, a recent graduate that he was very keen to work in China and had offers to work in China, but there was a better package waiting for him with more development opportunities to move to Korea. And he took that one, even though obviously China was his first choice. And I think, one of the reasons to explain this is you've got to have a bit of a adventurous pioneering spirit if you're coming to China to do your MBA. But that doesn't mean that these opportunities are only limited to China, right? So people then, once they've kind of had experience of studying here, they tend to be a bit more open to kind of look at opportunities elsewhere in the world. Or maybe they start to prioritize, more on the financial or the career development side rather than location.
Right. Yeah. And have your placement numbers remained relatively similar over the past couple years? Looking at your last career placement report, it looks like the top industries are technology, financial services, and healthcare. I guess, yeah, I was quite surprised that consulting was, fifth on that list, but a lot of your graduates going into general management positions, for example, as well. So, yeah, I'm wondering if that was unique to last year or kind of, what the typical placements are.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. I mean, last year was the first year that tech overtook finance as the top sector to absorb MBA talent. But from my understanding, I think that's quite common in a lot of countries. And then the other points, healthcare is always usually quite high up on that list. Yeah, consulting is usually there or thereabouts. But yeah, I'd say that these kind of top industries, they don't change too much. I think my take on it, and one of the challenges, of guiding these internationals through the application process is there's not kind of one industry or one function that absorbs non-native Mandarin speaking talent after the MBA. And people go into very different industries, and there's always kind of one or two examples, of a person that's having landed in a different sector or a different function, but there's not kind of one that you could neatly throw a blanket over and say this is where internationals who don't speak Chinese, this is where they go to work. And I think again it comes back to the proactive side. The people that really kind of go out of their way, network, build their own connections as well. My colleagues do a fantastic job in Career Development Center, but they're not magicians, right? And, again, particularly with this question in mind of why would somebody hire a non-native Mandarin speaker when they have maybe a similar talent with fluent Mandarin skills? I think one way to kind of circumnavigate this issue is to really kind of, build your own connections with alumni, but outside of the walls of campus.
Yeah. So speaking of building connections with alumni, I remember one of my big discoveries, it felt like a big discovery when I went to the boot camp, was how large and influential your MBA network is and how core that is to the school. And I'm wondering, I think at the time there were some initiatives to try to facilitate more networking between the MBA and the EMBA network. And I'm just wondering how that's gone and whether you've heard from your international students, how they've been able to get in touch with CEIBS alumni and what their experience has been.
Yeah, so the probably biggest initiative that we have to bridge these two kind of very different cohorts is the mentorship program that we've been running at CEIBS, and this has really gone from strength to strength. And many of our EMBA alumni, as you say, that are very senior, we have an intake of I think about 800 each year of this Chinese language program. Yeah, and actually, funnily enough, one of the EMBA alumni who supported the school through a financial donation is really one of the players that's made this Zurich, twin city option happen. And he's one of the founders of Tencent. So it really is a powerful pool of professionals that are kind of really do cover, most, if not all, of the industries in China. So this is where, CEIBS reputation does really go, a very long way. So the mentorship program, through a matching process, basically brings the MBA student into contact with, say, an EMBA who's graduated, that the MBA can then meet with, on a monthly basis. Again, it's not somebody to kind of on day one ask for an internship, but it's more somebody to kind of help you to, to develop the network that you need in China. And obviously, given that this individual is more senior and more connected, particularly for internationals coming in, it's a nice way to kind of, to cheat and, build a much bigger network in a short space of time. The other thing that works really nicely is, again, kind of coming back to this proactive side. For anybody that's in leadership of one of the clubs that we have at CEIBS, having this kind of title of president, say, of the finance and investment club, it really gives you this, this legitimate platform, incredible platform to reach out to a senior alumni and invite them to, come onto campus and share their experience. And, EMBAs are just like the rest of us in that everybody kind of likes talking about themselves and, and about their experience. And, obviously why I'm on this podcast as well. But, and I think through doing this and bringing them in, it's then an opportunity to really get to know somebody and also to learn from their experience. So yeah, we have some fixed initiatives, and then again, it's really down to the students if they want to connect with a certain individual to kind of think of it more from the EMBA alumni's perspective. Why would this person take time out of their day to meet this individual? And again, students have answered that question in weird and wonderful ways that have really helped to kind of to foster some of these relationships.
Yeah, no, that's great. And just speaking practically, how long can students stay with their student visa, and how does that whole thing work? If they want to stay in China, how much time do they have to try to find a job in China? How does the visa process work?
Sure. So essentially, when you come into China, you'll have a student visa, and the program length is 18 months. But typically we start in August. Typically, we finish in April. The student visa, tends to be for 2 years. So you've got an additional period of time to find opportunities. The good thing is that I'm from the UK. The visa sponsorship process there is a complicated nightmare. But for China, if you find an opportunity, it's fairly straightforward for a company to then, sponsor you and bring you on board, particularly if you're not the very first foreigner that they're bringing onto their team. The other thing that's nice about how the program is structured now is that I'd say, the first third of the program is really focused on the academics. Then I guess kind of the second third is more focused on the experiential nature of the program. So you've got the internship in there. You've got this integrated China strategy project, which is a 3-month live consulting case with partner companies. You've also got the overseas exchange in that period of time as well. And then the final third, it's lower academics, or even most people have even kind of finished their credits by then. And this really gives you the window to kind of focus on your career search. And at that period of time, our career development colleagues will be bringing companies to campus to do sharing sessions, do presentations. We host our job fair. So we kind of balance their plate, in a logical way. I'd say, put it that way.
James, this has been, a really good talk. And I just want to give you the stage. One last question. Is there anything you just wish more people knew about CEIBS?
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you, Darren. So I would just come back to what you mentioned before, that, if it's your first time considering or even thinking about doing an MBA at CEIBS, and you're not sure because everybody has a lot of questions before coming to China for the first time, then the pre-MBA bootcamp that we run each year, it really does give you that window to evaluate it on your terms. I mean, I stand up there on day one and give the MBA PPT and talk through the program. And it's, in terms of a sales pitch, and it's not much of a sales pitch, believe me, that's it. It's really down to individuals to speak to alumni, speak to students, enjoy the classes, get to know Shanghai, and that's where we really see people get attached to this city. So if you're on the edge, or you're not quite sure, then that's, I would say, recommend that as your next step. And thank you, Darren. I've really enjoyed our conversation today.
Yeah, I look forward to publishing this one, James. Thanks again for your time and sharing your insights and experience with the program with our audience. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Don't be shy. We have a mailing list. Go to touchmba.com and get yourself signed up. And we'll keep you posted with the best tips and insider interviews on how to get into your number one school. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Touch MBA. See you soon.